Friends, let's go ahead and begin our practice. And at this time, I would invite you all to fully arrive to yourselves, to the space that you're inhabiting. And I encourage you to lie down. I encourage you to find a noble posture. A noble posture for me is to sit on a cushion with my legs crossed. I really like to sit tall. I close my eyes. This is a time for me to settle deeply into my body, to anchor onto the earth. I keep my chest, my shoulders rolled back, and my chest wide open. And we're just going to come together and breathe for a few minutes. Welcome, everyone. This is Recovery Dharma. If you are brand new today to this practice, take a moment and congratulate yourself for bringing your spirit here, your beauty here, your openness. It inspires the entire community. If meditation is something new to you, please don't worry about whether you're doing it right or wrong. That is a trap. Meditation is simply you being as you are in this moment. And so a way to relax into it is to simply bring your attention to how you're breathing. You don't need to judge how you're breathing, just observe it, like you would observe a leaf blowing in the wind. I doubt you would be judging the leaf. Stupid leaf, why can't you blow differently? Why can't you move in a prettier way? Or whatever nonsense we say to ourselves. We're just watching the leaf blow in the wind. We're just watching ourselves breathe in and out. If your mind wanders and you notice it wandering away, take a moment to internally jump up and down for joy that you noticed this and return your attention to breathing. And you might have to do that 100 times in your meditation today, and invite that to be your practice. Invite it to be perfect as a practice. For the month of May, in the Spokane Sangha, we are exploring the theme of the archetypal mother, the sacred feminine. We all know that gender is fluid. There is no set female gender. There is no set male gender. We're all on that spectrum. We're all in a body vessel with a consciousness that has a different presentation of the qualities and conditions that have been designed by society to determine male or female. I'm boldly bringing forward this theme because over the centuries, the archetype of mother, the qualities of femininity, the idea of woman has been diminished, repressed, oppressed, dismissed, and we have, all of us, suffered from it. So today, what I'd like to do and what I'd like to begin in terms of a contemplative practice is to start with the Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, born 2,600 years ago, whose mother died in childbirth, as the story goes. And there are many legendary stories of the Buddha, none of which we know are actually historically, factually true, because they are told from an oral tradition, reinterpreted, retold, embellished over the centuries, as stories are. So we are to take these stories and these legends in poetic form, not to interpret them as fact, but to interpret them as points of wisdom to show us and guide us something, towards something. Siddhartha Gautama's mother died, and her sister, Maha Prajapati, married the king and raised Siddhartha as her own son. That alone is a fascinating story. And so many contemporary families are defined by women stepping into the role as mother without being the biological mother. For all kinds of reasons that happens. The story goes that when Siddhartha left the palace grounds, threw off his wealth and his princely lifestyle to take on the identity and the image and the projection of a monk, when he became enlightened, there are conflicting stories about his relationship to women. Some stories say that he immediately brought women into his company. He ordained them as peers, as nuns. He allowed them access to all the teachings. He said that they would become enlightened beings just like everybody else. Maha Prajapati is said to have been his first ordained nun. And the story is, depending upon the story you read, that he welcomed her in as a fully ordained nun immediately. Other stories say that she asked repeatedly and he said no, and finally he acquiesced. There are many stories that circulate about the Buddha rejecting women in his company, not allowing them to receive full ordination. Stories and dictates about women in Buddhism that are alive and well in contemporary society. For hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, women were not allowed access to deeper teachings, were not allowed to have the same kinds of rights as monks, were always considered second class. This aspect of a story for women is not new, and it is ripe in the Buddhist tradition. I'm bringing this forward not as a critique toward Buddhism, although it's worthy to be critical of that, but rather to invite us to play with the fourth foundation of mindfulness, which is our stories. The stories we tell, the stories we hear, the stories we fabricate and repeat in our minds over and over and over. There is a very common phrase in the practice that says, don't believe everything you think. So when we come into the mindfulness practice of looking at our thoughts and looking at our stories, we really get to practice, would you look at that? Look at that story I just told in my head, quietly, privately to myself. Is it even true? It might be. It might be true. And it is not the whole truth. And that's the part of this practice that I want us to spend some time considering as it relates to the mothers in our lives. What are the stories we are telling and harboring toward the mothers, the grandmothers, the aunts as mothers, the sisters as mothers, the friends as mothers, the fathers as mothers, the brothers as mothers, on and on? What are the stories we're telling about people embodying the mothering role? Can we create a little space to question those stories, to tease them open a little bit, to make space for something that we've been harboring to be a distortion, a fiction, a figment of our imagination? Can we get curious about what else is true here? Maybe you had the best mother on the planet. What else is true about her? Maybe you had the worst mother on the planet. What else is true? This is an invitation to enter the landscape of our stories gently, compassionately, with curiosity and wonder. For the next few moments of silence, let's just explore this in the quiet safety of your own mind and your own good heart. Should your mind wander somewhere else entirely, smile when you bring it back to the breath. Don't worry if you have to do that a number of times. That's simply your practice today. And enjoy your practice. Friends, sometimes when I'm practicing, my mind can get really busy and really noisy. I'm highly creative, so lots of racing thoughts, lots of distraction goes on in my mind. One of the tools that I use regularly is the practice of mantra. Mantra are very simple phrases that are meant to be memorized and repeated easily, and they're often coupled with the breath. So when I'm working with my stories, I'll tend to say things like, breathing in, I think I'm telling myself a story. Breathing out, it might be true and not the whole truth. Breathing in, I'm telling myself a story. Breathing out, parts of it are true. What else is true? Breathing in, I'm telling a story. Breathing out, can I open up to see more that might be here? Friends, we'll take a step toward the conclusion of our practice today with a dedication to the three jewels. This is a beautiful chant that I love. The three jewels in our Buddhist practice are the Buddha. And the Buddha is not a god. The Buddha is a human being just like you and me. Buddha means the awakened one. And what the Buddha, what Siddhartha Gautama revealed to all of humanity is that if he could awaken to the causes and conditions of his own suffering, everybody can. We all possess Buddha nature. To understand that and to gain access to it, we have the Dharma. This is the second jewel, and these are the teachings of the Buddha, like mindfulness. And the third jewel is the Sangha. Sangha means community. The community of wise friends who are called to gather and to practice. This is where we learn, this is where we are inspired, this is where we are stirred. This chant is very simple. We'll chant it 3 times. If you know it, you can chant with me. It is 2 words. Namo is the first word. It means with a wide open heart I bow. Namo Buddha, Namo Dharma, Namo Sangha. That's how it goes. And we chant it like this. And I'm going to put my hands in prayer position. If you want to do that, at the level of my heart, you can join me. You don't have to. Taking a deep breath. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Sangaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Sangaya. Namo Sangaya. Friends, let's go ahead and end our beautiful time together with a dedication of merit. And I invite everybody to find a noble posture. And in this way, I would invite you to sit. And if it's comfortable for you, close your eyes or at least turn your gaze downward, maybe even inward. Take a couple deep breaths. I sometimes like to put my hand on my heart. It is very common in practices, mindfulness practices, Buddhist practices, Eastern philosophical perspectives, to bring closure to the gathering by dedicating all of the goodness that was achieved here today. So many of us come to these meetings because we're harboring a story that's like, oh God, I got to get to a meeting. I have to have a meeting. I need a meeting. And we fail to recognize that it takes effort to come here. It takes action to come here. It takes motivation to show up to a meeting. It takes conditions in your life that allow you to have the time and the space and the means to get to a meeting. So there's a lot involved in arriving at a gathering, even if you need one. Not everybody can get to a meeting when they need to, when they want to. And so what we do in this practice together is we recognize that. There are community members who are in jail and prison. They can't get to this meeting. There are community members and friends and loved ones who are in active addiction. Some are living on the street. Some are tucked away in their apartments, barely getting out of bed. They can't get to this meeting. Some of our loved ones and community members are in the hospital or in treatment centers. They may not have access to this meeting. And so we are here to explore our own recovery, to celebrate our recovery, our journey as it is for us. And we are here for those who can't be here. May the goodness of this practice enter your minds and hearts. May it radiate out of your energetic body, through your presence, through your eyes, through your beautiful smiles, through the way you stand, the way you drive, the way you interact with people today. May it be full of loving kindness, compassion, joy, freedom. May whatever healing you received here today reach out into the world, ripple out, and embrace your loved ones, strangers, all living beings everywhere. Thank you so much for your courageous practice, for your impeccable wisdom, and the beauty of your presence. We'll see you next time, friends. Namaste.